Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Weijia Jiang. Deadly mass shootings across the nation are reinvigorating lawmakers' calls for gun reform. In Illinois, new legislation banning certain firearms and high-capacity magazines has been temporarily put on hold. The law, signed earlier this month, faces several legal challenges from gun rights advocates and Republican-led counties. Just today, the National Rifle Association said it's also filing suit against the new law in partnership with other gun rights organizations. My colleague at OKeefe spoke with Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker about the new gun bill he signed and his expectations for the 2024 presidential election. Here's part of that conversation.
What assures you that getting this big piece of legislation passed as your first big one in the second term will prevent gun-related crime, will prevent mass shootings like this from happening in the land of Lincoln?
Well, let's recognize that there is always a lot of talk about, we need to pass some gun safety legislation after these major mass shootings. And there is a great deal of investment that we've, over the last 2 years, made in crime prevention, that is in violence prevention on the streets, lots of programs to put kids to work during the summers and so on. So we're doing quite a lot. What makes me think that we're going to have a diminution of crime in our state is we're doing all of those things. You can't just do one. Assault weapons ban all by itself doesn't have the desired effect of truly reducing gun violence by a significant amount. It's important. It's one component. But you've got to do all these things. Now, Republicans talk an awful lot about mental health and say what we really need to do is not pass assault weapons bans, but really we need mental health treatment. But they voted against it every time in our state. And we've made significant strides in mental health treatment. So, they're hypocrites. They talk a lot about that, mainly because they don't want to talk about the fact that if you had an assault weapons ban in place, it really does reduce the number of shootings. We saw that nationally. And, for 10 years, we had an assault weapons ban in the United States, and you saw the number of shootings go way down. So we anticipate that will happen here.
But it seems that Gavin Newsom or Kathy Hochul get all the ink about the kind of work they've either done or are trying to do. You sitting there in Springfield must get a little grated by the fact that they get all this attention, and yet you and some of these other Democrats in the Midwest are actually getting this stuff done.
The Democratic governors are getting it done across the nation, and I'm very proud of what we're doing here in the Midwest. As you know, over the last 4 years, we raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We legalized cannabis and expunged the arrest records and conviction records of people with low-level cannabis convictions. We significantly increased college scholarships, made college much more affordable in our state, and we expanded childcare access and preschool. So, these are Democratic priorities that matter to me. And that, you talked about protecting reproductive rights and reducing shootings. Those all seem like things that the vast majority of people in the United States support, and here in Illinois. For anybody who's been around long enough to remember the 1996 Democratic Convention here in Chicago, really, I've been to almost every convention during my adult lifetime. It was the best convention that Democrats have ever had. So I'm looking forward to putting on the best convention again and renominating Joe Biden.
If he calls you and says, as he's contemplating his reelection, Governor, how should I be characterizing what I've done, and how should I be selling myself to voters now going into 2024? What would you tell him?
He needs to make sure that people remember who he is. This is a person with great empathy. And I think he demonstrated not only that empathy, but the ability to get things done in the worst crisis, perhaps in all of our lifetimes. Also, think about the challenge of the Congress that he got, where, 50-50 Senate, a very close House, and managed to get massive pieces of legislation that really lifted the economy out of recession in a very short period of time. So, that's not a small thing to brag about when you're running for reelection. And 3 or 4 or 5 major pieces of legislation that came through, despite the fact that he had very slim majorities. In fact, one thing that came through is he works across the aisle. right? This is a guy who served in the United States Senate and worked across the aisle when he was in the Senate. And now he's doing it as president. He proves that having experience doing that and having the respect of people on the other side of the aisle, being able to sit down in a room and really hammer out a deal, that's something that you need in these very turbulent, difficult times where the nation seems divided. This is a guy who brings people together.
CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins me here in D.C. with more. Ed, this law could be a model, right, for what Congress could do if successful. So tell us what it will do to get assault rifles off the streets.
It essentially targets the various tools that can be added to semi-automatic weapons to basically make them automatic. It restricts the size of the ammunition clips that can be attached to weapons, and in fact would have banned the one that was used in that shooting last 4th of July in Highland Park, Illinois, which was part of the reason why they were passing this law to begin with. It also intensifies or expands the use of those so-called red flag laws that allow judges to deem people dangerous and keep weapons away from them. Governor argues this is all legal, this is all within the scope of current Supreme Court precedent. He's ultimately convinced that it will prevail. What happens in Illinois, and part of why he's willing to do this and to deal with the legal fight, is big city Chicago, state legislature run by Democrats, the rest of the state with more than 100 counties, rural and Republican. And they're the ones that are filing suit. Some sheriffs have said they don't want to enforce this. He says, bring it on. Ultimately, he's convinced it'll prevail. Of course, there was a Supreme Court decision regarding New York's gun law. There have been attempts in other states that have been peeled back by the Supreme Court or by federal courts. We'll see where it goes. But it's a good example also for anyone who's like, something needs to be done. Well, here's somebody who's doing it with a Democratic legislature, plowing through, believing that despite the legal challenges, it will prevail. And he argues it's a good model for other states.
Well, it also shows that, it's not just Congress that can do something, which, President Biden once again is calling on lawmakers to pass a similar kind of bill here. He said today, get it on my desk as soon as possible, but let's level set, right? Because we hear this every time there are mass shootings. So what challenges are going to make that pretty much impossible?
For one thing, you have a handful of Democratic senators running in 2024 in predominantly Republican states who may or may not be willing to support legislation that would further restrict the use of assault-style or military-style firearms. Joe Manchin, John Tester, Sherrod Brown come to mind as the kind that certainly would be on the bubble. And look at the legislation that passed last summer in the Senate regarding gun crimes and gun control. 65 senators voted for it, 15 Republicans joining all the Democrats. Of those 15, 4 have retired. So it brings you down to a total of 61 senators who would support at least that legislation that was passed. What's the magic sauce that could get 61 senators? And you need at least 60, remember, to break the filibuster? It's hard. Yeah. And so that math, plus the fact that there are a handful of Democrats who are going to be skittish about this because of the politics of their states, means it's going to be really hard. The Feinstein federal assault weapons ban gets reintroduced every 2 years, and Biden always expresses his support for it. That's the goal. But the reality right now is it wouldn't get through the Senate, certainly wouldn't get a chance in the House.
You also asked the governor about 2024, which is interesting because huge if, for some reason, President Biden does not end up running, even though that is his intention, he is one of the Democrats who has been on the list of potential candidates.
And the reason is he's a big state blue governor. He's a multi-billionaire who can self-finance his own statewide elections, so he could conceivably cut himself a check to launch a presidential campaign. He made very clear he's not interested. I did. Made very clear he's not interested in that. He wants to serve out his full 4 years. But, as we say, if the if the president for some reason doesn't run, he'd be on the list of people. And he wants, and his team, I think more notably, wants him in the conversation. There's this feeling among Midwestern Democratic governors, Gretchen Whitmer, Tony Evers in Wisconsin, Pritzker, Pryor up in Minnesota, that they're doing a lot of the things that Democrats want done, but they don't get nearly as much attention as Gavin Newsom in California.
Well, I was just going to say, yet another reason why he's annoyed by all the attention that Governor Newsom gets.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Ed O'Keefe.